Hi, everybody. It's PJ Kwong, and I am delighted to be able to welcome my very good friend who I've known, I don't know, since you were maybe about 12 years old, it feels like.
It
So
has
this
been a
is
while,
Andrew.
yeah.
Yeah, it sure has. This is Andrew Poje. Andrew Poje is a three-time world medalist, two-time four continents champion, Olympian, Canadian champion. I mean, there really isn't anything that you haven't done in terms of the world of figure skating, and I am delighted to welcome you, Andrew.
Well, thank
Um,
you very much for having me, PJ. It's great to see your face. Now, I
it's
wish
great.
it was a little bit more of a physical interaction, but technology is a wonderful thing. At least we can do this.
Well, and at least here we're the same height. Usually, when you've got your skates on and whatever, I sort of come up to maybe your waist.
Yeah, I
Listen,
get a good squat routine in. I have to like get down to your level.
and you're often sweating. Not that that's a bad thing. Listen, let's talk a little bit about the events of this past week. Before we came on the air, we talked about the fact that this has been an extremely challenging time for the world. And I know that with Black Lives Matter and with all of the attention to racism that's going on, you wanted to say a couple of things. So let's talk about it.
Well, I mean, I think it's important that we talk about it. I mean, especially as a privileged white male, I'm in the most privileged position, and I need to educate myself. I need to really consume all I can to learn, and because there's been too much social injustice that's gone on for years and years and years, and it's time to stop it. And luckily, with the advent of social media and all this connectivity that we do have, I think people are able to really spread that word and get a proper conversation going. It's not just yelling at each other. You can actually sit there and listen and consume some wonderful content through movies, through books, through dialogue with friends and family.
I think the issue for me has not been so much people yelling at each other, it's been the river of denial. And that's really been the big issue.
Right. It's
I
so
alternate.
intertwined with so much historical information, and although there has been progress in both Canada and America, there's also been a lot of um, a lot of things that have gone under the radar that have really created a gap that is unsurmountable by many people.
It's so interesting. As we look around, I don't know about you, and maybe you can speak to this a little bit. I am consumed with feelings of despair at times, with moments of just unbelievable sadness. And yet,
Hmm.
when I have watched the world rise up as one,
Hmm.
in many locations across the world, it gives me reason for hope. Where do you sit in terms of your feelings?
I mean, I always try to bring a hopeful eye to all of these. It's you look at just back at the beginning of COVID when it was such a horrible time in Italy, and then all of a sudden they band together, and there was that opera singer that was on her balcony and put in a performance, and really it comes down to like those art performances and the people just really getting back to their grassroots of what's important to them. And I think that's really been a blessing in disguise. I think the world kept on going at such a quick pace and just rolling into the next day, and everyone was just trying to run that rat race. But with COVID, it's given people a forced pause to really reflect on who they are and what they've become, and really reassess that. And hopefully, everyone comes out of that aspect with a new sense of purpose and with a hopeful outlook. At least that's what I've been working on, and I hope that others have. And I really hope that through this we'll come together and really create change with the Black Lives Matter movement, because I think it needs to. It's surprising that nothing has changed over all these years, and it needs to change, and something needs to be done.
I think that things have changed. I think that we just need more change. And I think that
Hmm.
sometimes a big whole mess of chaos is what is required in order for change to be enacted. So that's kind of what I'm hopeful is going to happen here. So I really appreciate you sharing your thoughts on that. Not everybody is willing to sort of speak out. So thank you very much for that. And you know, we're all going to continue the discussion offline, as it were, and just see what we can do better. But in the meantime, as we're talking about COVID, COVID has been extremely complicated. Now, there's been a very interesting comment that has come in regarding COVID. It's from Craig Rebbett, sensational skating fan. The Maine is extra majestic.
It is getting out of control. Out of control. I almost did the COVID shave your head thing, but it's been a lot of hats. Been a lot of hats, and excessive hair gel to keep it at bay. But I am very much looking forward to phase 2 reopening, so I can quickly get into my hairdresser to tame it.
I have to tell you, have the same sort of kicky little flip at the back. I'm getting almost ponytail ready. You might be as well.
Exactly. Yeah, I feel like I'm turning into a little bit more of I almost at ponytail stage, so it's getting there.
So I want to talk a little bit about skating. I mean, people who are watching this broadcast today, they know you best as an ice dance champion, most recently for the last, since 2006 with Caitlin Weaver. Let's take a quick look back down memory lane to the 2006-2007 season. That is, of course, the Samba.
The lovely silver Samba, yeah. That was, I think that was Oberstdorf, probably, that one. But yeah, that was a fun year. That was our first year. We had a whirlwind of a season. We did senior and junior that year. I don't know how we got to bounce back and forth, but yeah, it's been a fun journey. I think, honestly, out of the entire experience of COVID, that's been one of the biggest changes, and one of the biggest things to kind of modify in my life is not having Caitlin there, and because unfortunately Caitlin's been in New York and I've been in Toronto, and so we've been separated, and this is the longest we've been apart since we started skating. So it's been a strange touch. Now, obviously, we talk on FaceTime quite often, and we are always keeping up with each other, but it's not the same as being able to get on the ice together and just play around.
Well, and the truth of the matter is that very few places, certainly here in Canada, have people on the ice yet. I mean, it's just started in Ontario sort of in the last week and a half or so, that elite level athletes, and there is going to be some progression towards more junior athletes, junior meaning not actual category junior, but the idea of people not being on the ice, that's something that we wouldn't have thought about. And yet, Tracy Wilson was talking about last night on a Skate Ontario Facebook Live, along with Brian Orser, that back in the day, they used to be mandated to take May off for sure. The whole entire month. It was a 6-week period of no skating, no nothing, back in her day. Now, that was also back in a day where competitions didn't happen as frequently as they did. But it's been interesting. What do you think the biggest lesson is for you from this whole COVID experience?
I mean, there's a plethora of experiences that I've gone through, and it's honestly been strange to not be on the ice. This is it was the longest I have ever been off the ice since I was an adolescent. So it's strange to not have that outlet to really express myself. Now, luckily enough, I did get back on the ice last week for the first time, and didn't fall on my face, which was, well, actually, no, I did fall on my face, but not right away. But it was strange to not have that ability to express myself through movement on the ice. And so I found the importance of really getting out and dancing more, and just getting out and exercising and finding different ways to express myself. I started to learn how to create music on music programs. So, I've been trying to different ways, and through, obviously, I love culinary arts. And so learning a lot of different recipes and challenging myself through that. It's been a fun little journey. And it's definitely allowed me to learn more about myself internally, as who I am as a person, and what's really at my core pillars of what I need in my life moving forward. And I think that's a great lesson for me, and hopefully now I can implement it moving forward into my future life.
You know, part of your future this last season included this amazing show, which is coming back, Battle of the
Yes,
Blades. You know,
right.
we had so much fun backstage. I was writing for them, and then, you know, to see you on a weekly basis and all of my other skating pals. What was that show like? I mean, it's a huge hit here in Canada. They've announced that it's coming back.
Yes.
What
Yeah.
kind of fun?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I say too.
Yeah.
What was it like for you?
I mean, I think. Well, honestly, selfishly, I think I had the best partner out of everyone, because Natalie really made that entire experience so special, and it was I had a ball. It was nice to be in the same medium as what I normally perform in, but in a completely different way that challenged me both artistically as a performer, but also technically. And I had to learn how to be a coach and a skater at the same time, and learn how to really adapt to another person's energy and the way that the audience would react to certain things, and what I could really achieve on such a short basis. And so it was a wonderful challenge for me, and I think it was very needed for the Canadian community as a whole at that point, because I love the two main pillars of Canadian sport, with hockey and figure skating coming together. It's a beautiful, uh, cohesive environment.
So your partner was Natalie Spooner. You know, I was fascinated as I was watching you guys on the ice. I mean, when you're skating with a partner, like Caitlin or even your dance partners before, they
Mhm.
spend a lifetime learning how to be lifted. It isn't just a question of you lifting a bag of potatoes kind of thing. You know what I mean? There's an
Yeah,
art
right,
for both the man and the woman in terms of a lift.
right.
You guys got it down in a matter of weeks. What is the biggest challenge? What was the biggest challenge
Well,
in
matters of
trying
weeks. It
to
was pretty funny, to honestly, in the backstage. I wish there was a little bit more backstage footage of things. Heard Natalie doing a roll up, which she called the fruit roll up, because it was, that was a good image for her. Just her face the first time we did it was, I wish it was like a kid at a candy store, like that first day, just like, "Ah, I did it," and we made it into a little party trick. It was fun.
So the whole idea, and do you think that this kind of idea of bringing figure skating and hockey together,
Mhm.
what was the benefit to the sort of the country and the country's two sports as a whole? Was there one?
Yeah, I think it was definitely. A lot of people don't get to see hockey players as vulnerable as they are in Battle of the Blades. It's hard to be able to go out there and perform, and I think it really shows the differences of, although we're both skaters, how different those environments really are. And it also challenged us as figure skaters to really learn how it is that they performed on a daily basis, and the different stories that we shared, and then allowing the entire Canadian audience to see and peer into that process, and to peer in to elite athletes kind of going to square one all over again and trying to push themselves, but all those lessons that we've learned through the years, and how that really pushed us to be the best we can and perform on those moments and when we rise to those occasions.
You know, you're known as a fierce competitor, but gracious in victory and defeat. There was never a time
Well, thank
backstage.
you.
Well, you're very welcome. Very much backstage. It was never a question of, oh, geez, they didn't have a good skate and there's going to be a tantrum. So here's a fun picture I found. Where was this? And what does this
uh,
mean?
that was Stars and Ice rehearsal. That was Stars and
Okay.
Ice in Halifax. It's honestly, it's when it comes to daily training or competitions, it's about keeping your energy and your attitude where it matters the most. I don't think you're not going to gain anything by being angry or lashing out to people outside of the arena. You're not even getting when you're on the arena. So, it's about really keeping your positivity, or if you're angry, keeping the anger where it belongs. And that's really in a productive manner, and really trying to utilize that energy that you can gain from those emotions and really pushing it in a positive direction, and that's always been my way of approaching things. If I am defeated, it's about realizing what I could have done, and also realizing what they did better, and allowing myself to appreciate that and applaud that and utilize those strengths in the future for me.
Is there a competition or a situation where you faced a challenge that you thought you might not be able to overcome? And what did you do to do that? I'm thinking mostly about the young people who are watching this broadcast who could benefit from your experience.
Uh, well, I mean, unluckily, but luckily, I think looking back on things, Kayla and I definitely had some up and down moments. We definitely didn't have an easy path throughout our career. There's a plethora of experiences that I could definitely fall back on, but one that immediately jumps up is when Caitlin broke her foot back before in 2013. It was coming up
And it was
on
a terrible break. It was
yeah, it was
terrible.
yeah,
She went into the
she
boards. It was a
completely
mess.
yeah, yeah, we were going backwards full speed and she went feet first into the boards and broke it completely. Had to get a couple pins and plates in there and to put everything together. And we had just choreographed our program, so we didn't have any training underneath us. And the doctor said that there was no chance that we were going to be able to compete that season. And it was extremely deflating because that was the qualifying for Olympics the next season. It was a home worlds, and home crowd obviously is amazing, but especially Canadian home crowds. It was something that few competitors get to have, and we weren't sure what would our career look like in the future. So this would have been our only chance, and it was deflating. But luckily, I have an amazing partner who was resilient with her rehab and just fully committed to a day in, day out training, doing every single thing that she possibly could. She had an amazing physiotherapist, and I did everything I could as a partner. I supported her wherever I could by being on the ice and training as hard as I could with my coaches. I did patterns and programs with my coaches at the time, and worked out as much as I could so that I could be the strongest base possible when she did come back, in hopes that it would be in time for the Worlds. And then lo and behold, that she got on with, I think it was about 2 weeks before World Championships, and we're like, well, we're gonna try this. We're gonna see what happens, and we pushed ourselves, and we got there, and we put out 2 of probably the best performances that we had of our career, at least the proudest ones that I've had of my career. And, just because we really didn't have those expectations of what was possible. We were just happy and elated to be there, to be able to perform, to be in front of that crowd. And we felt so supported by all of the friends and family that were there. And there's no words that I could thank them enough for all that they did. And it made us reassess our way that we trained and progressed in the future. And I think that was integral to our success beyond that.
It's interesting. Lots of people find themselves in a situation where they're just ready to kind of give up. So the fact that you're able to still stay in the moment of the challenge and push your way through is something to be kind of celebrated. It's not everything that other people know how to do. Can you talk to me a little bit? Let's take a look at another picture. Okay. From all of my talking backstage, it's my very favorite dress. In fact, I wanted Caitlin to give it to me, and I loved your outfit. I loved it.
Yeah. But that was actually a pretty crazy story, those outfits and
I
that
know.
program.
That's why I want you to share it.
Yeah, because we had started the season with a completely different thing. we were skating to Elvis Presley, and as you can see by those pictures, I don't think Elvis would have worn outfits like that. So we had very different outfits and a very different program. And we had competed that at one of the summer competitions in Finland, and gotten some feedback that we weren't pleased with, and we knew that if we needed to make a change, we needed to do it right away. And we also knew that the Grand Prix season was coming up very quickly. We were selected to go to Skate Canada, and that was only 2 weeks after Finlandia. And so we had to come home, and the first day we got back, we got midnight ice, completely reprogrammed our short dance, and came out with the Strauss program. And Caitlin was searching and searching and searching for on our Pinterest boards to find whatever outfits that really went, and she found that dress, and she was the mastermind behind that dress. And we really tried to go as authentic as possible. And and luckily our dress designer that worked with us at that had ins at the Stratford Festival, and we have a great constructor that was there, and we made those outfits. And honestly, those are my favorite outfits throughout our career as well. I think those are the ones that, although it wasn't a very breathable costume, it was quite heavy and quite cumbersome, but it was, it was fashion and comfort have nothing in common.
They never do. You know that, don't you?
Right.
No, what's so interesting is that in case people didn't hear you correctly, it wasn't the stress program, it was the Strauss.
Oh, yeah, sorry, Strauss program.
It did sound a little like stress.
But it was a little stressful that first time, because you don't even know. Yeah. Like, can we get through it? Am I going to remember the steps? Are going to go back to the old program? I don't know.
This is a great comment, actually, from Paul Labatt, who is a great skating fan. Your Paso Doble costume should be in a museum of art. I regret not having downloaded that photo.
Well, that is the runner-up for my favorite costumes. Also, that is one of the most lethal costumes, because people might not know, but all those beads were hand sewn with metal wire.
Oh.
So every single bead across my entire shoulders, all along my pants, every single one was with metal wire, and which is, first of all, heavy, but it was great. It looked amazing, and I wouldn't have wanted it any other way. But unfortunately for Caitlin, as we progressed through the season, some of those metal wires would snap, and we had like sharp little daggers. And we had a rotational lift that went across my entire back and through my shoulders. And it wasn't pleasant for her bare skin that she had. So there was, I think we were at maybe Worlds or Nationals or something like that, and she was rolling across that, and we hit her any position because it was right near the end of the program, and she was just, all of a sudden, she just in the back fell, just like, just like screaming. The fierceness was out. It was real. There was a little bit of pain in that, but it was, yeah.
This is the dress we're talking about.
Correct.
And you're beating.
And those shoulder epaulets were all torn up by the end of it. So it was, yeah.
They still belong in some sort of museum of art, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about medals. I mean, these are silver medals from Four Continents in 2019. You and I and Caitlin, we were together in Seoul when the Four Continents took place, and it was 2010. And you missed going to the Olympic Games by 0.003 or something ridiculously small like that.
Yes.
But the silver lining to that cloud is that you went on to win the Four Continents Championships.
Correct.
And then Caitlin also injured her knee there. So that was the silver lining, and then not so silver lining. But that really, I think, put you guys on the international map. So tell me a little bit about your medals. Where are they? What do they mean to you? Are some more valuable to you as a person than others? Tell me about that.
Well, I think going to that Seoul, that Four Continents medal was definitely a pivotal moment in our career, because we did miss the Olympic qualifier by such a margin, a minute margin, and that was extremely painful to digest. And then we had to go 2 weeks later and compete in Seoul and compete at that Four Continents and put out a program that we were trained and proud of having. But I think it proved to us and our coaches and to those who were watching our resilience. And we never treated a day at skating the same ever since then. We tried to really get a little grain of positivity or a nugget of information every single time we stepped on the ice to really ensure that we were the best we could possibly be when the moment counts. Another one would be definitely in Saitama, being on that world stage that first time right after in 2014. And, I loved our Maria program that we had that year.
Me too.
I always loved doing tangos, but that Maria program really spoke to us. And that in between stages of being in Sochi and then training for Saitama was some of the toughest training we had our entire career, because we were exhausted. We were absolutely exhausted. Our mentally, physically, our brains were just shut off, and our body started to shut off. I had a huge gash on my leg that just kept on bleeding. And unfortunately, we had the fin step that year, so we kept on having to bounce on that, and it just kept on digging in. So like my body was shutting down. But to be able to put out a performance that we're so proud of in that moment really helped make that medal that much sweeter. And then I think this past season when we skated SOS, and that was more so not for us, but that was because of what the program meant to us, because of what it represented with the history of Denis and how he inspired us to have that program and what he meant to the sport of figure skating, and to be able to use that feeling on a daily basis, was integral to bringing truth behind those emotions, and to be able to perform that day after day after day was a blessing. And I'm extremely thankful to be able to have that outlet, and to be able to have those achievements as a representation of that was amazing.
For people who don't know, we're talking about Denis Ten. Denis Ten was the bronze medalist in men's figure skating at the Sochi Olympics, the first Olympic medal in winter sport for his country of Kazakhstan. And he was tragically killed by vandals who were trying to take his car mirrors in his hometown of Almaty. And his death at 25 years old, I think, was a huge shock that resonated not only throughout the skating world, but through the sports world in general. So lots of people keep his memory alive through their thoughts, their comments, and you guys through your program. It was a beautiful tribute to him. Can you say how you came to choose the music and why this became a tribute to Denis?
Well, actually, luckily enough, the last time that Denis was performing was for his annual show that he had to help progress skating in Kazakhstan. And luckily enough, we were a part of the cast that year, and he had skated to SOS as one of his last performances, and we were so taken back by the music and the beauty of it that we're like, we would love to be able to skate to this. And we talked to Denis about it and came back, and we started playing with the music. We started playing around with it and choreographing it, and then the tragedy struck, and we were just unable to listen to the music, unable to really even get into that headspace for quite a while. And then we realized, no, we need to do this for him. We need to be able to, just to be able to express what he meant to us, and hopefully what he meant to skating in a small way, and so we tried to do it justice and try to really express what he meant to us through that program.
You've got a great comment coming here from Joanne Shaw, who is a legend in the
I know
officials
Joanne
world.
very well.
We all do.
Hi, Mrs. Shaw.
Or as I like to say, Joanne. But that was actually, that's a beautiful comment. And it was a beautiful tribute to Denis, to be sure. Were you ever a free skater?
Define what's the bar
level
that I need to set. I did start out in singles with a not such an illustrious career.
Okay.
I did progress through a bunch of my double jumps and enjoyed it, but I found more enjoyment and fun in ice dance, and that's where it led me through my successes, but also just my passion was in there. I didn't there's not many super tall jumpers out there, and I think my height when I was a young boy didn't really help me gain a lot of relation to what was up and what was down, so I fell down quite a bit.
If you were anything like me as a jumper, it was mostly what was down.
Yeah, exactly.
What was that? That was the problem.
You learn how hard ice is very quickly.
Oh, here's another comment from Joanne, who knew you when. She judged you at the time. Dance was more of your forte.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You may get off this Facebook Live and start weeping. I'm not really sure. Is there something about ice dance? Because I've known you since you were like below junior. I don't remember all of your partners, but I certainly remember seeing you even when you were like, I want to say 13 years old. So a long time ago. Tell me a little bit about having an on ice kind of chemistry. What does that mean to actually be able to go through these experiences with somebody versus a single skater who's on their own?
I think it's extremely hard to articulate how intertwined your experiences become when you're on the ice together as a partnership, because it's both empowering and frightening at the same time. When you're out there by yourself, you can rely on your mindset, on what you've really trained going forward, but also you're at the mercy of, if you have a bad thought or a bad moment, then things can fall apart. With a team sport, with having a partnership, you can rely on your partner in those weak moments. You can rely on those ups and downs through your emotions by working together, by really balancing each other out. Whenever I was too high in energy or too aggressive, Caitlin would be able to go a little bit lower, and so that we can create that homeostasis and really create the perfect energy level where we perform best. But it was also difficult because you have to work literally face to face, day in, day out, no matter what your mood was that day, how you slept, what you ate, how you're feeling, anything like that. You had to make sure that you were on and able to adapt to the situation. And so that can be extremely difficult because, although you have a common goal and you have that end point, everyone has a different journey. Everyone gets there at different times. And so to try to coordinate that to make sure that you are on that same page every single moment is a challenge, but I think is one that makes ice dance such a unique sport, a unique challenge, and something that makes me love the sport that much more, because I think I'm maybe it's a little bit, I'm sick-minded for that, but I love that challenge. I love to be pushing myself to limits in every aspect.
When you're 20 years old and you're approaching the Junior World Championships where you won a bronze medal, you were also bronze medalists at Senior Nationals in the same year. I mean, it really was an introduction into the skating high society in a way for you guys, and it was like your first
Right.
season of competing as well.
Correct. Yeah, that was our first season, and we were lucky enough to be on the podium at Nationals and at Junior Worlds that year. So it was nice.
How grown up do you feel at 20? I mean, do you think I've arrived? I'm the junior world bronze medalist. I'm the bronze medalist at the national championships. Basically, I can just sit back now and allow the roses to be thrown at my feet, allow the medals to just be tossed around my neck. I mean,
yeah, I felt like
young.
champion of the world at that point. It's like, oh, this is wonderful.
This is easy.
It's. I think the blessing that I was given that season was to be able to go to Senior Worlds also that year, and we definitely didn't go on the podium, and we realized how, we thought it was such an amazing experience, which it was to be on the podium at Junior Worlds, but how different it is to be in the senior international stage, and how much I still had to learn. I felt like I experienced so much throughout my skating career growing up there. But the difference between 25th and 3rd on the senior national ranks is so small, but is so important. Whereas the difference between being 30th at Junior Worlds to 1st is a little bit more of an understandable progression. So it's been. I thought I was mature and understood the world when I was 20, but I have learned and grown immensely since then.
We all have. Let's face facts. So let's talk a little bit about support. I mean, you find yourself today, it's your dad's birthday. Hi, Bill. Happy birthday.
Yeah, it's my dad's birthday. 70th birthday. Big 7.
Wow. He'll be really happy you said the age, too. I never said it, Bill. I'm just saying. So your mom and dad were there virtually at every competition along with your sister, Julia. That's how I got to know them. I mean, I knew you before I knew them. Well, no, actually, your dad was super involved, and your mom, too, as volunteers in what was the Western Ontario section. So they've always had your back. Having that kind of family support, what has that meant to you?
I think it's meant the world. I think I can really be, I can't be grateful enough for the amount of effort and the time that they've put into the successes that I've had as an athlete, because it really came down to what they taught me as an adolescent, how integral they were to my success, because how integral they were into the sport growing up. My mom has been and continues to be test chair at Kitchener-Waterloo Skating Club, my home club, throughout my entire career, and to be, which is a volunteer job, and to give so much time to the sport. And my dad was president of the club, and he constantly is out there doing music announcements and all this. He's really, they've always been volunteers. They've always been giving back to the sport, and made me appreciate how wonderful the people are in the backstage of the sport. And because I was a part of that as a young kid, it made me want to push myself that much more when I was on the ice, and made me want to give back after my career was done. It's why I've progressed, and I want to become a coach and help out some of the youth generation moving forward, and why I'm trying to do my best to inspire the youth however I can moving forward.
Does this mean, let's talk a moment about legacy. You're going to be 40 someday, not in the next little while, but at some point.
That sounds scary.
If you told your dad's age, I could only say you're going to be 40 someday. So it's payback. So tell me what you would like your legacy to be, your skating legacy to be.
Oh. I think that's hard for me. That's hard for me to dictate. I think that others can, and I leave that responsibility to others. I think I just try to be the best competitor, the best training mate, the best human I could on a daily basis moving forward. I think that's important for not even for sport, but just humanity as a whole. I think as the world can see, people are being, there's some evil people out there. And I think you just need to be reminded on a daily basis of the kindness that is in people and the greatness that humanity has. And, I push myself to try to give back and to try to do the best and be at my best always. And that's my hope for the future, is to try to continue that. And hopefully I've done that along my career.
The final question is basically just a thought that I'm looking at from you. And that is, again, we've got some young people who are listening to this broadcast and who are fans of yours. They're trying to figure out how to get back on the ice. They're trying to figure out if they're ever going to get to school again, if they're ever going to be able to hang out at the mall.
Well, online school is a thing. I've been doing it for
forever.
Quite a year, forever. I successfully got my email today that I'm successfully graduated my first degree. I luckily am going to Queens in the fall for my second degree, but I'm excited that I finally finished one.
What is your degree in?
It's a Bachelor of Biomedical Science. So it's
Bachelor of what science? Did you say stress science?
Yeah, stress science. Sorry, I mumble sometimes. Biomedical science. Yeah, I've always had interest in sciences, and now I'm going towards more of innovation and entrepreneurship. So I want to try to create some sort of socially ethical and responsible business practices, and try to learn how to create my own or scale up other ones in the future.
Oh, so the second degree is going to be in what?
It's a master's in entrepreneurship and innovation through Queens. So I'm very excited for that. Yeah.
Wow. I'm really excited for you. That's wonderful. That starts, are you doing it remotely, or are you going to go to Kingston?
Well,
or a bit of both?
It's a bit of both. It's a dynamic thing. It's a hybrid course. So most of it is done online. So I can still be able to be in skating as much as possible. But unfortunately, one of the boot camps that was in the fall time has to be put online just for safety measures, which I appreciate, and I know that the rest of the student body does as well. But yeah, I'll be able to remotely go to class and enjoy that aspect of things, and keep on pushing my education that way.
That is amazing. Congratulations on your first degree and going to your master's. That's just wonderful. I'm going to be even nicer to you now because you may be able to help.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so last question. Just one thought, one comment, one tip that you can throw out there to the young skaters as they're navigating all of these challenges.
I think just really look at what inspires you to, if it's pertaining to skating or to life, what really inspires you as a person, who you are, and what you really want to get out of life moving forward. Because as I'm sure many adults out there can attest to, life moves very rapidly, and things can get set on a trajectory very quickly. So I would just say, figure out who you are, but also just learn and grow and try things and play around. I've gone through many different activities and little challenges along this quarantine time that I never thought I would, but it's excited me in different ways and made me learn and grow. And I definitely have a lot more little hobbies that I never thought I would have in my life.
It's so amazing to get the chance to talk to you. And what I'm going to say now is that, first of all, thank you so much for joining me. Secondly, I want people to follow me and like me on Facebook, because I need the validation, and subscribe to my YouTube channel.
You, PJ.
God bless you. Have you liked me on Facebook, though? That's a whole other story. And the
I've
other
been on
thing
Facebook in a while, but okay, I will.
Sure. And the other thing is subscribe to my YouTube channel. Andrew Poje, I hope this isn't the only time that we're going to get a chance to talk like this. Thank you so much for all of your insight and for all of your thoughtful expression of your feelings. This has been just a complete treat. Thank you again. And bye, everybody. We'll see you next time. On Thursday, it's Eric Radford. I'm just saying. It's a big week.
I'm
I know.
excited.
He may have a beard too. I'm just saying. All right, guys. We'll talk to you soon. Thanks again, Andrew.
Bye. Thanks you, PJ. Bye.